Hello and welcome to the Medical Sales Podcast. I'm your host, Samuel, founder of a revolutionary medical sales training and mentorship program called the Medical Sales Career Builder, and I'm also host of the Medical Sales Podcast. In this podcast, I interview top medical sales reps and leading medical sales executives across the entire world. It doesn't matter what medical sales industry, from medical device to pharmaceutical to genetic testing and diagnostic lab, you name it, you will learn how to either break into the industry, be a top 10% performer within your role, or climb the corporate ladder. Welcome to the Medical Sales Podcast. And remember, I am a medical sales expert sharing my own opinion about this amazing industry and how it can change your life.
There's the summer lag that was called dealing with salespeople. And that is, sales aren't necessarily going June and July as much as you want. You're starting to get a little anxious depending on how long you've been in a certain facility, whether it's major corporation or whether it's a minor, or whether you're independent. That summer lag is a real thing. And I always caution people to try to make sure you make a wise business decision if you're going to move in the summertime. Because typically hospitals run that fiscal year, some run calendar year, but like a lot of hospitals around here, they're just now starting in July. So their budgets are about to be released. So don't leave before if you worked on a capital deal, don't leave before that, see whether it's going to be approved or not. Then you've got your companies probably coming up either on a fiscal year or they're in the Q4, they're about to go into Q4. They're just word of advice. If you're going to move companies, be sure that you're moving for the right reasons and you're just not moving because you're frustrated and you think it's going to be better.
So you're saying don't move during the summer?
So it's a catch-22, right? You can sit there and say don't move, but if it's the right offer at the right time, that's fine.
Right. Then it doesn't. It's like buying a house. It just depends on the numbers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You might not get the right interest rate, but is the price of the house right? If the price of you moving to a new job, make sure you're moving to a job, bottom line, is something to improve your career and not that you're running away from something because you're frustrated with lack of sales. Summertime's too slow. You've got an itch going on because you're tired of doing the same routine again and again. Because a lot of times, unless you're doing something that's going to be radically different, either call point, management, different product line to different surgeons, going to office-based versus OR-based, you're just changing the routine in the sense that you go through training now. You go back and you're going to be at the same facilities doing the exact same thing with a different product. So you're not changing your grind unless you're changing the attitude in which you're trying to improve yourself or your financial aspects of things are going to improve greatly.
Now,
don't be careful.
Generally speaking, though, all variables the same. You're saying that the summertime is usually not a good time to switch companies.
I don't think it is.
Yeah, explain that.
Because hospitals so let's say, for example, you went from working at Medtronic, selling mostly disposable devices, to go work into stores, capital sales equipment, big mega deals. Hey, there's a reason why that territory is open in the summertime. You're probably didn't make the capital cycle, and you're probably going to be a year out before you can get to that capital cycle again. So unless your company has alternatives, such as leasing to own, buying some sort of disposables into having the capital done, you're going into a capital equipment. I guess that's really but you have to make sure you're going into the right situation, because if you're going to a capital equipment and you've missed the beginning of the fiscal year, like if you're down here in Atlanta, 3 of the major hospitals just started their fiscal year. Mm-hmm. Well, if you weren't on those books, guess what? You're a year out. And so now you've just made a move from a disposable income, working disposable entities, having a monthly portion being used, a daily portion being used, to having a capital which takes a long time to grind itself out. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I worry when reps get so anxious in the summertime to jump jobs, unless it's a jump to financially improve themselves. and don't take the OTE as the recruiter or the manager is telling you, unless you ask the questions, well, how many people are there?
But in the same vein, if you've been wanting to leave and you're saying that summertime is usually when jobs are the most open, wouldn't that be a good time to look for an opening that you wouldn't normally have?
Unless it's an improvement, your next job shouldn't be a lateral move. Unless you're in a toxic situation, your next job, if you're in medical sales, you shouldn't go from Medtronic territory manager to Ethicon territory manager, or to Applied Medical territory manager, or to a Hologic territory manager. You're just changing the hat that you just were wearing. Unless it's of a financial gain, which it have to be, in my opinion, it's kind of like you don't refinance your house. If you're at 6% interest and it drops to 5.9, you don't go, oh, it's below 6. You don't go refinance your house. Because the cost of that, and the cost for a sales rep, is you're out of the territory. You now have to go to training. You have to make sure you pass training. You're away from everything that you were building, and now you're going to come back with a different hat on. Mm-hmm. So in that same kind of a brash way of looking at it, make sure if you're going to refinance or you're going to retool yourself, it is to be able to be improved. So if someone say, hey, he left Medtronic, but they went over to become a manager at Johnson & Johnson, or they became a manager over at Applied Medical, whatever the case might be. Don't move just because you're frustrated.
So let's talk about, let's define it. Now, I know this is your opinion, Todd, and everyone listening, this is Todd's opinion. So, but let's define it. Let's define it. So, I'm a rep. I've been doing this for 3-4 years now, and I want to make a move. What determines if it's worth moving? What level of increase in pay should move me? If the passion for what I'm doing is relatively the same, what am I considering? Give us a range on how much you should try to improve by. What should the territory step into look like? What should the upward mobility be? What defines this is a worthy move?
So I think you have to have at least a $30,000 increase, because anything else, your tax bracket, you almost want your tax bracket to increase in the same size. Does your upper mobility means a lot. So if you're wanting to be able to do it, I don't want to pick on companies, so I'm going to keep no companies' names out of it. But if I know companies that are too linear, meaning you've got territory manager, regional manager, AVP, president. So there's no steps in between. And if your desire is to become a manager, and you want to be able to, you think you have the skill sets to be able to manage a team, whether it be marketing or sales, and you don't have that ability, I understand the move. I get it. But you better be able to move for an increase in pay and the ability in writing that you would have an opportunity to interview for a manager's job. Don't just take the manager you're interviewing with, their words saying, oh yeah, you have a bunch of opportunities. It's like anything else. If it's not in writing, it does not exist. Okay. Because then they can turn back in time and say, well, we're just not in the place where we think you should be able to do it. You need to be able to move knowing and letting that manager know your job, you want to have the future with this company. That company is to move up the ladder. So if you don't have at least a $30,000 pay increase or a short trip into management, then why are you moving?
Gotcha.
If all things are equal, the grass isn't going to be greener on the other side. The grind isn't going to be, yes, managers make a difference. And maybe you're in a bad situation. That is a totally different scenario. Right. If you're in a bad management situation and that manager's not going to make your life easy, I get it. I've done it. I've left because of management. But those are far and few between, in my opinion.
So
I think frustration builds too quickly.
Sure. So, and you're right. I think there's a growing intolerance for what you're supposed to bear in a job. And I think, to your point, what a lot of people discover is they start job hopping only to realize that they're just experiencing the same thing over and over and over again. And that's just a red flag of you clearly have an intolerance to just what needs to be dealt with to get ahead. But let's go back to the definition. So if we have 30,000 and a defined manager track in the contract, those warrant a move. What about defining what working for a bad manager looks like? What is someone that should really consider leaving experiencing from their manager versus someone that should really consider sticking it out experiencing from their manager?
I think you have to look at the tenure of the manager. How long have they been there? If you've been there in any sort of period of time frame in which you're looking to leave, you've probably been there at minimum at least 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
Before 3 years, unless it's a harassment, 3 years, you're going to probably just now get your sea legs underneath you, really have your territory moving and grooving where you feel comfortable. Some days you don't have to be in X hospital because you know they're going to do the right things. So you got to have at least, in my opinion, you need to have at least 3 years if you've started a job before you look to go do anything else. If not, you're going to put yourself in bad jeopardy.
Okay.
If you have a bad manager, the bad manager, after that 3-year period of time, they are micromanaging you. They are, because you need to look at yourself at the same time too. It's not always just management. Sometimes you're just a bad employee. That's the other part of this. If they're micromanaging every part of your business, if you're constantly feeling that there is no lateral or ability for you to have I call it lateral management grouping. That means defined as I have the chance to be able to be a leader without being a leader. You're giving me responsibilities. I've expressed to you, this is what I want to do. I want to become a manager, but you refuse to allow me to take on responsibilities to be a lateral leader. I don't have the same title, but yet I'm given more responsibilities. Because if you want to truly get into that, you won't have a problem taking that responsibility on regardless of not being paid for it. Because those are some of the sacrifices that are needed. If you don't have the ability to do that, they constantly micromanage you. There are constantly little digs here and there. If you'd have worked harder, you'd have gotten this. Or if you'd have paid attention more, there are constant, if you stop to listen to it, they're belittling little jabs at you and your performance. Those are the reasons why you turn around and look at management and you go, what is around? This is why I encourage every rep to do. Is that a culture of their management? Because I've been there. Mm-hmm. The culture of the management says, this is how we manage. We intimidate, we belittle, and we degrade so that we seem so superior to everybody else. Everybody else either leaves us or they leave us alone. If you're in that situation after 3 years, you probably should take a look to seek leave because that's a bad manager.
Now, there's bad management and there's bad companies. I talk to a lot of reps and managers, and some of them, I advise them on what moves they should be making. And what I'm starting to see a lot is what move should I be making versus bad manager or bad company? In your opinion, Todd, give us what bad company leadership looks like. And then, you kind of just defined bad management, but give us what bad company leadership looks like and when someone needs to, how long should someone even be waiting to make a move when they get the sense that that's happening? Go ahead.
Unless it is, again, harassment, physical, emotional, even sexual, to me, you need to figure out a 3-year period. Is there a magic number for 3 years? The reason why, because it's going to take you about 18 months, usually for a rep to really understand all the bounds, things need to be done, whether it's from a hospital standpoint, different call point, ins and outs of the company, how the company itself works. And that's usually not unveiled until you sit in there and you really have things going. So give yourself 3 years when you take a job. Bad company, in my opinion, words and actions don't line up. We tell you this is what we're about work-life balance. We're about family. We're about all these things. But yet we're doing conference calls at 6:00 at night. We're driving you to a point where we're not listening to anybody's opinions. We're focused strictly on this thing. We've seemingly watching them be a ship in the water without a rudder to be able to guide the ship. You can't understand the direction because this is now the hot thing. And then all of a sudden, 2 months later, now this is the hot thing. We need to go south. So there's no clear guidance in which the direction you're supposed to be doing. And as a sales rep, your most important thing, besides worrying about the patient or the customer, is manage your business according to the comp plan they give you.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to earn more money, manage the comp plan and how they want to pay you. If they're going to pay you 25% on X widget, then X widget needs to be your highest thing compared to maybe 10% here and 12% there. So that needs to be the big whale that you have a target and figure while also getting the other parts done.
I hope you're enjoying today's episode. And I want to let you know our programs cover the entire career of a medical sales professional. From getting into the medical sales industry, to training on how to be a top performer in the medical sales industry, to masterfully navigating your career to executive level leadership. These programs are personalized and customized for your specific career and background, and trained by over 50 experts, including surgeons. Our results speak for ourselves, and we're landing positions for our candidates in less than 120 days in top medical technology companies like Stryker, Medtronic, Merck, Abbott, you name it. Would you run an Ironman race without training and a strategy? You wouldn't. So why are you trying to do the same with a medical sales position? You need training, you need a strategy, and you need to visit evolveyoursuccess.com, fill out the application, schedule some time with one of our account executives, and let's get you into the position that you've always dreamed of.
So the company will tell you what is their importance by how they pay you. ETAD is continually changing, but the comp plan is not changing. That's a bad company. That's a bad mix because they're not in a clear direction on what they want to do. And in 5 years from now, like all the questions, well, how do you see the company developing in 5 years? We all ask that question in interviews. And the management comes, we've got a healthy R&D. We've got moving things that go in this direction. And you've been there for 3 years and you've talked to other reps. Yeah, they've been telling us for the last 5 years that this healthy R&D, we have yet to have a new product. We've had demo products they've had to pull back.
Sure.
We've had acquisitions of new products because we couldn't do it on our own. The acquisition didn't go well. We paid 10 times street value, but yet our sales do not justify the value by which the company was.
Right.
That to me is a bad run company. And you're going to find that out within the first 3 years you're doing it. My opinion. I've seen it too many times.
Yeah. Let's take it to the entry-level rep that's trying to get into medical sales. What, from your opinion again, what is a good time? What do you think in the year is the easiest time for that rep to get a job and why?
So you need to find out the company.
Based on the season is what I'm saying.
Right. Yeah. So you need to find out when their end of the year is and how they run. Because what usually happens, they have their big bonuses and they get their quotas at their national meetings. And then by that time, within the next 3 to 4 weeks, the people that have got their bonuses and got their projected commissions for the following year are either in or out. So if they're running a fiscal year and say New Year begins in October, they have their big national sales meeting. They come in there, people get their big bonus checks. They get all the prizes and all the awards and stuff of that nature. If they didn't make it, they'll be on their way out real quickly because they'll get their quotas and they'll be like, nope, I'm done. If they've done it and they've blown it out, but they know they put in a house of cards and they're like, look, this is going to be exposed. I'm out, I'm done. So find out the company you're talking about and find out how they're running their company on a fiscal or a calendar year, knowing at that time frame, right after that new year starts for them, you're going to have a big exodus. It happens every single company I've ever worked with because they get their bonuses and they get their quotas and they either built it on the cards or they built it so they're not.
People are happy or not. And if they're not happy, and a bunch of openings are going to be happening with that company.
Exactly. So it's a roll of the dice. It's tricky because here you is new trying to break into the industry and you just want to do something. Also, like I told them in the interview process, sometimes when you just want to get into the industry, sometimes the industry doesn't have a straight linear path. Sometimes that has a curve and a jagged and a reverse around. So there was a dear friend of mine, and they were associate rep. And the problem is they were not going to leave Atlanta. Period. I'm not leaving. They left to become a territory manager. in a different company. Things go on. About 2 years, 3 years later, I think it was 3 years, we had an opening in the territory that that individual knew so well. And they came back to it. And they came back and they're thriving in that territory. Sometimes it doesn't always look as cookie cutter as we want to make it seem like.
Sure. Yeah.
And you have to be willing to say, I just need to get into the game and I'll figure some of the other stuff out, because then you have to understand you are the brand.
Right.
To the customer, you are Hologic, you are Medtronic, you are Applied, you are Stryker, you are Storz. They don't associate everything else. If there's a problem, you're the person that's supposed to fix it.
Right.
If it's going great, you're the person that gets to have the praise.
Right. Okay. So from the outsider rep that's listening to this right now, and this is great. I'm going to find out. What's the best way to find out? Besides asking a rep, because maybe the reps don't want to talk about it. Maybe they don't want to explain to a outsider when the next national sales meeting is, when they get their new goals. How do you find out as the outside person trying to identify if this company is a good time to try to enter it? How do you find out these things about their goals and the national meeting and all that?
If it's a publicly traded company, that's public information. Because you'll say we're running our quarters and they'll have the quarterly reports.
Okay.
Don't always look for the reps that are right in your area to talk to. If you're going to, and I had a conversation with a young individual the other day about this. And I said, look, trying to get a rep to open up to you on LinkedIn, you have to treat it like dating. You've got to inquire about them. How did they do this?
Nice.
I'm a young individual just out of college. I just finished medical sales college. I just finished all these things. Samuel's got me all wired up. I know how to do all this stuff. I want to be able to be medical sales. That is all about you and nothing about them. They want to be some, not all. There are some that want to be treated as though we've broken through. Now you need our help. Also understand some reps don't have the capacity to be a mentor. They don't want to do anything like that. They're barely surviving themselves. So don't necessarily pick the town until you've made some connections outside of the area that you want to work. So if you're in middle of Kansas City, go pick somebody down in Texas. It's relatively in the same areas, going straight up the middle of the country. Go pick somebody in Texas. Go pick somebody in Minneapolis that are in the same company. You'll begin to understand and maneuver around. One of my associates that came and worked under me, he did that. He was at Alaska and he talked to the reps in Alaska. Then he talked to reps in Fresno. Then somehow or another, somebody mentioned my name and he contacted me. Oh, he was out in California. And then he contacted a rep down in Mississippi. And then they finally got, so I mean, through different means and different connections, because then somebody, if you make a connection somewhere else, and let's say Joe Smith in Fresno, California is the person you connect with. Hey, Joe, I'm really looking to be able to be in Kansas City. Hey, you know what? I know Mary. Mary's over there. She's wonderful. She's always been great. She's a top performer. I'll tell you what, because you've made the connection, I'll send Mary a note and tell her, hey, be on the lookout for Todd giving you a buzz. He's a good guy. I've had a chance to talk to him and mentor him a little bit. He really wants to get with us. You guys might have an opening coming up. You might know better than me. So here you go. Talk to him. Find somebody outside the arena where you want to work so you can build credibility with the individual to call that individual out in the area that you want to work.
I love it. So in this same vein, now you have this rep that's listening to this right now and like, all right, cool. So I found the company I want to work for. I found out when their national meetings are and when they're going to be announcing new goals for the upcoming fiscal year. I found out when their exodus, if they have one, is going to happen so that there's an entrance for me. I found the rep I'm going to talk to that's going to give me that insider information. I'm all knowing what's going on. What about the company itself? Not the rep that's active, that's looking for a new job, but the outsider that wants to get into the industry. What is the simple checklist they can run through to let them know, is this company someone I should consider? Let's say they get the interview and they heard another podcast and they heard, you just got to get in. And they're like, okay, I just got to get in. You know me, Todd, I don't really agree with you just got to get in. You got to get in where you fit in. So this is a worthy company that I should consider working for checklist for that outsider individual that wants to be a sales rep?
first and foremost to me, you got to understand the procedures by which they are dealing with. You can be taught the product and how the product interacts. But if you walk into an interview and you're talking to people and you don't even understand the first thing about how a shoulder is done, or how a hysterectomy is done, or how a gastric bypass Roux-en-Y is done, if that's the company, that's where their focus is, then you are so far behind the eight ball. You should be able to articulate the procedures by which the company has. You're probably going to mispronounce the name. The great thing that this generation has over everybody else is they can Google and watch
in 2 seconds. They can watch a procedure and be relatively versed in how to talk about it. You're absolutely right. Sure.
And that's where you've got to do your homework more than anything. Because if you don't understand the procedure, you don't understand how the product interacts, the company is irrelevant.
Well, yes. But let's say you have all that. And you as the person trying to get in is trying to vet if this company is worth the time you're putting into it. Here's the reality. Being on the outside, you have no idea. You're just trying to get into medical sales. So at this point, you'll say yes to almost anything. But what if you don't take that approach? What if you don't say yes to anything, especially if it's a bad situation that you don't know? So what's the checklist that someone can have to vet a company to make sure they're not walking into a bad situation?
Well, I think, first of all, you've got to take a look. I will still say procedures and understanding. I think you have to take a look from, if it's a publicly traded company, where their financials sit. Meaning, where their quarterly reports have been. Where's their last annual reports been? What is the stock market saying about them? How they perform? I mean, what do they perform under? And all this stuff is just public knowledge. It just takes the time to go do it.
Of course.
Because if they're not meeting their expectations and they're falling below, or they had to adjust earnings to be able to make this, or they overperformed and that analysis came back, and now they're graded higher because their stock goes up. All these things are, to me, you have to understand. You have to understand the public persona of how the company is and how it financially sits. After that, I personally, I'd go talk to them. I'd go find one of their competitors. How do their competitors look?
Meaning?
Because, and the reason why I say that, so say if you wanted to go to Storch was your ideal company. You want to find out in that town, kind of asking hospitals, asking doctors. I mean, I know it's hard to get into, but sometimes you've got to be the investigator reporter and find a way to do it. Okay. And you've got to find out, because if you can be in a town like Atlanta, Georgia, you can have a hospital system like Northside Hospital System, and you can have Storch at the main hospital, Stryker at a satellite campus, you have Olympus at another campus. So you need to find out what the area and how that competition looks. Make friends with the nurses on as far as LinkedIn. I almost said online. On LinkedIn, you have to do your homework that goes beyond.
So when you say find out,
go ahead.
When you say find out how the competition looks, you're saying, okay, so if you do this and you find out that huge Olympus usage and huge Stryker usage and all this usage that's not your product, you're saying that's like a strike against the company you're going for, or are you saying something else?
I'm saying that's your greatest opportunity to go in there and be the hero that you want to be.
I see. Okay.
Look, you can walk into an interview and they're going, Samuel, I understand the market looks like, from best that I can tell, looking and talking to different people, it looks like Storch is really probably only about 15 to 20% of the market here in Atlanta. You know, I really think with my skill sets and what I've been able to do in the investigation I've been able to do, I think I can come in here and start moving that needle in our direction and taking business away from them. If you go in there and you're in a saturated market and Storch has 98% of the market, well, there's a reason why that position might be open. The rep might feel it's so saturated that they have nowhere to grow.
And you are not saying that should be a red flag for the rep trying to get in. You're saying that should be an opportunity for them trying to get in to address and talk about how they can turn things around.
Exactly. If you walk in and you're at the disadvantage and you want to get in there, you want to prove yourself as a sales rep, that's like the golden unicorn sitting in front of you. Because you're either going to perform like you want to perform, and everything you said and believe about yourself to get in this job is going to be sitting right there for you, and you'll be greatest surprise child of everybody. Everybody will love you because you've been able to take business from the competition. But again, it takes work. You have to be willing. It's stuff that's you can go find, but you just can't sit back there and go, I want to get into medical sales, but no one will give me an interview. I have to get in medical sales, but I really don't know what the competition outlay of this area is. Would you walk into a hospital not knowing whether or not if you are a rep, when you were a rep, did you walk into a hospital not understanding what your competition or where you stood? It's the practicality of what you're going to do on a day-to-day basis. So why not understand that prior to the interview? Do your homework. And if you've got the opportunity to go in there, let's just say it's split 50-50. And it's just two of you guys. It's Medtronic and it's Ethicon. And they're battling out as they've always done for decades. And they're 50-50. But you've also taken time, you've gotten to know, and you've reached out to a first assist or a nurse in that area. You've made some common goals and some areas to sit there and have a conversation with those individuals. And you've played your cards right. And now all of a sudden you can walk in that interview and you've made contacts. Now you can sit there and say, hey, I realize this is pretty much a split house, especially over at XYZ hospital. After talking to some of them over there, whoa, your manager's going to look at you like, well, what do you mean you talk to them? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You're doing the extra that is preparing you to show what you're willing to do while you're working. Interviews should be a reflection of how you're going to perform. People forget. They just want to try to get through the interview to get the job. Mm-hmm. You're setting an expectation as you're going through interviews, saying, this is how I'm going to perform for you.
Right. Okay. So let's get the rest of that checklist. So we've looked at the financials. We've looked at now the competition. What else?
Does it meet the desire that you want to do?
Okay, talk to us a little bit more. What do you mean?
So as we go through the program, we have everybody produce, they talk about what is their why.
Right.
If you're not going to get excited, you're sitting here, and I don't want to name companies, but if your main job is to do dressings for wounds, that is the definition of it's. But people have made great living of it. I'm not trying to disparage anybody from doing it.
And some people find a lot of passion in doing that, by the way. But yeah, go ahead.
But if that's not your drive, desire, you got up there and do it, you will probably last about 18 months. About the time you figure the business out, you will have the quote unquote burnout because you're just not into it. It doesn't meet, you don't wake up passionate about being able to say, I want to make sure this patient feels great and the doctor has great comfort to it. So you have to understand the why about which you want to be able to do it. I know that's a little bit further down the list than some people say. You start with your why. Your why needs to match what you want to do, but I don't think it's as high. I really think it's about third or fourth on the list to be able to make sure, because you can have a great passion for women's health, but if you go and that's your why to go drive it, but everything else doesn't match, the financials of the company is
terrible,
horrible. The management is horrible. The reps are all pissed off and ready to leave. Everybody you talk to, I mean, it doesn't make a difference if your passion is women's health. If it's a crappy company and you think it's going to fold, I mean, think about all the people that went to E-Coil, the little sterilization portion you had done in the office. Mm-hmm. Well, where's that now? So you made good money if you're on the front end of it, but then all of a sudden, it didn't match everything else it needed to match, and they got yanked.
Okay. Anything else you'd add to this list?
Say again?
Anything else you'd add to this list?
I think that point in time, the last thing, it is important, and I don't mean to put it last, but if you're going to rank things, some things have to be first, some things have to be fifth, fourth, or whatever. I do think you need to understand the culture of the company, which is the overlying, and then you have the culture of the team. They don't necessarily have to match.
Okay.
The culture of the company is we want to improve shoulders the way they're done throughout the country. We want to be the top orthopedic company that when you think about shoulder replacement, you think about body part replacements, you think of us. That's an umbrella. We want to be the top.
Sure.
Subset, team culture. Does the team have a bunch of backstabbers? Step on your throat, step on you, push you away. You got to earn every little thing. We're going to treat you like you're a private and walking through basic training until we've determined that you deserve our help. I've seen teams treat new reps as though they were just a scum of the earth until they viewed, or the top influence in that company or that team viewed them as worthy enough to be able to have help be given.
Now, do you believe you can find this out before working on that team?
I think you can in a small micro sense. That's why it's important to understand and have communications with other members around the country, because they will have a viewpoint of how that team is. They might say they're all top performers, but they're a bunch of a-holes. They're satisfied with what they do. They like their manager, and they always have fun together, and they always seem to want to be around each other. They are the team that never performs. They run through people and managers like there's nobody's business, and it's always turning over. There's been one person that's been a constant, and that's the cancer in the group, and they're never fired, regardless. So you can have conversations with team members of other subset teams, other regions, other districts, and they'll be able to kind of have that conversation. Hey, what do you know about the Atlanta group? What do you know about the Houston group? Hey, how is LA's group really, how are they perceived by you guys? So I think those are conversations as you're building your understanding of, do I want to go work for this company, that you have to have an honest conversation. And you got to be okay to be uncomfortable with asking, hey, just out of curiosity, what is y'all's perception of the South Central team in LA? Dude, they're rock stars. Every one of them always performs. Dude, if you're not performing, you're done. Like, they give you a short leash. They expect everybody to be a quota by the third month. If you're not there, they're writing you on the PIP. If you're not off that PIP in 30 days, dude, you're done. It is cutthroat, but they all perform top-wise. So you have to ask yourself, can I be that? Or do I need a culture that allows me to learn, allows me to make mistakes? And this group kind of helps mold you around. The manager's always there to help you. But gosh, Samuel as a manager, man, he has been there for 10 years. You can't get anybody to leave it. The fact that position was open is unbelievable, because Samuel never loses anybody. They all stay, or if they do leave, they're being moved up into a group, into marketing, into management themselves. You can find that out by asking around. And that goes to that beginning portion of it. Don't necessarily go make friends on LinkedIn and find out about the company with those that are in your immediate area that you're looking to go work in. Because then you can draw that stuff back out. Because that is very important. Regional culture is greater and more essential than company culture.
I like it. Todd, this has been an enlightening conversation. We'll be doing this again.
I hope you enjoyed today's episode. And remember, I have a customized and personalized program that gets you into the medical technology industry as a sales professional, or any type of role for that matter. Become a top performer in your position and masterfully navigate your career to executive level leadership. Check out these programs and learn more at evolvesuccess.com by visiting our site, filling out an application, schedule some time with one of our account executives, and allowing us to get you where you need to be. Stay tuned for more awesome content with amazing interviews on the Medical Sales Podcast.